Cowboys Nation, things have gotten wild again. And if you're like me, you're just plain tired of the noise. It's not just about the Dallas Cowboys losing a game or missing an opportunity to climb the NFC East standings. Nah, it's deeper than that. It's the constant cycle of negativity from voices that are supposed to be covering the team objectively. This time, the target is Jerry Jones. Again, but the new twist? Kenny Clark is somehow caught in the middle of it, and the person stirring the pot is none other than Clarence Hill. Now look, this ain't about defending every decision Jerry has made. We all know the Cowboys front office has made its share of questionable calls over the years. But what's not going to fly is turning everything into some politically charged smear campaign, especially when it involves throwing one of the team's best defensive players under the bus just to push a narrative. And that's exactly what's happening here. So let's lay it out. Jerry Jones goes on the radio and says he's proud of the Kenny Clark trade, says he's getting his money's worth, says Clark is grading out as one of the top 2 defenders on the team right now. That's a fair statement. Anyone watching the games knows Clark has been one of the few consistent pieces on a defense that's had major ups and downs this season. That should have been the end of the story. A rare compliment from the owner that gave credit where it was due. But Clarence Hill jumps in with a tweet that flips the whole thing on its head. He says it's unfair to Kenny Clark for Jerry to compare him to guys like Reggie White and Ndamukong Suh. Hold up, what? Since when is being mentioned in the same breath as 2 legendary defensive linemen a diss? That's a compliment in any context. But Clarence turns it into a weird attempt to undercut Jerry, painting him as some out-of-touch owner making outrageous claims again. The problem is, this isn't an isolated comment. Clarence has a long track record of doing this kind of thing. He's the same guy who tried to ignite chaos among the fanbase over the Micah Parsons situation. Same guy who pushed narratives that made the Cowboys organization look like it was crumbling from within, even when the facts didn't line up. Now he's doing the same thing again, but using Kenny Clark as the scapegoat this time, just to make Jerry look foolish. Let's get one thing straight. Kenny Clark has been balling. He's holding it down in the trenches while the rest of the defense has been inconsistent. He's producing from the nose tackle spot, not a flashy position, not the kind that racks up media hype, and still getting sacks, applying pressure, clogging the run lanes. And yes, the defense gave up over 200 rushing yards to the Panthers. But blaming that on Clark, or using that stat to say he's not performing, just shows a lack of understanding of how defense actually works. Jerry's comment wasn't about how Clark stacks up across the whole league. It was about his role on this defense, this roster. And honestly, he's one of the few guys earning his paycheck right now. So what's the point of trying to tear that down? Clarence isn't just making a football argument. He's trying to turn every quote from Jerry into a social commentary. Every compliment gets twisted, every criticism gets weaponized. It's exhausting, and it's not helpful. What makes it worse is the hypocrisy. You can't be the guy crying foul about injustice or inequality, only to turn around and spread your own brand of division when it suits you. You can't demand fairness and objectivity from others while refusing to apply that same standard to your own coverage. If Jerry had said something negative about Clark, Clarence would have been first in line to accuse him of being dismissive or disrespectful. But when he does praise him, Clarence still finds a way to twist it. It's this constant cycle of drama, not analysis, not reporting, but drama, that's driving a wedge between fans and the team. Instead of having real football conversations, we're stuck parsing through emotionally charged hot takes that don't serve the fan base. They just stir up anger and confusion. And here's the thing. The Cowboys didn't even lose ground last week. Yeah, they lost. But so did the Eagles. So did the Commanders. We're sitting in the same spot we were before the weekend. That doesn't make everything sunshine and roses, but it sure as hell doesn't call for panic either. It was a wash. Yet some folks out here acting like the sky is falling again. This isn't just about defending Jerry Jones. It's about holding people accountable for the way they shape the conversation around this team. If you're going to critique the front office, do it based on facts. Do it based on football. Don't spin every quote into some larger ideological war. That kind of coverage is toxic. It's bad for the fan base. It's bad for the players. And it's bad for the culture of the team. There's already enough pressure on this roster. The defense is shaky, the offense is trying to find consistency, and fans are looking for answers. The last thing we need is for local media to feed into fear and outrage just for clicks or attention. That's what this feels like. And honestly, we've had enough of that. Instead of weaponizing every quote, how about asking better questions? Instead of constantly trying to find a hidden agenda behind every roster move, how about looking at the actual football decisions being made? Jerry said they're open for business at the trade deadline. That's the kind of statement that deserves real discussion. What kind of moves could they make? Where are the weaknesses? Who's out there on the market? But nah, that stuff gets pushed to the side while we debate whether or not Jerry unfairly compared a player to two Hall of Famers. Let's be real. This isn't about Clark. This isn't even about Jerry. This is about a narrative that's been pushed for years. A narrative that paints the Cowboys as some dysfunctional mess, and Jerry as the villain in every scenario. And look, he's not perfect. No one's saying that. But not every decision he makes is some sinister plot. Sometimes a compliment is just a compliment. Sometimes praise for a player is just that, praise. And for someone like Clarence Hill, who's been covering this team for decades, to keep resorting to this type of manufactured drama, it's disappointing. Because the Cowboys deserve better. The fans deserve better. And honestly, the players deserve better. That's why fans need to be careful who they get their Cowboys news from. Not every voice is coming from a place of truth. Some are pushing agendas. Some are stirring chaos just to watch the fire burn. And those voices? They don't speak for us. We want real talk. We want football talk. We want accountability where it's due, but not just random chaos every time someone says something with a mic in front of them. Now shifting gears to something a little more tangible. Jerry Jones didn't just step up to defend Kenny Clark this week. He also dropped a serious bombshell about the Cowboys' approach to the trade deadline. And if you've been following this team long enough, you know how rare it is for Jerry to come out and say the Cowboys are open for business. But this time, he made it clear. Eyes wide open. Both sides of the ball being evaluated. Help might be on the way. And here's where things start to get interesting. Jerry mentioned they wouldn't rule out adding on offense, even a running back. That alone should be enough to make fans raise their eyebrows. It means they're not fully confident with what they've got in the backfield. Tony Pollard has had flashes, but consistency hasn't been there. The depth behind him, not exactly terrifying for defenses. So names like Breece Hall and Alvin Kamara have started floating around as possible targets. Now are those deals likely? Maybe not. But if Jerry's being honest, and he usually is when he speaks off the cuff, then we're looking at a front office that knows it needs a spark. Defensively, though, that's where the real work needs to happen. Because while Kenny Clark has been showing up, the rest of that defense has looked tired, disorganized, and at times, just flat-out slow. You can see it on tape. Missed assignments, lack of energy, soft coverages, and a serious need for reinforcements, especially at linebacker and in the secondary. And the truth is, there are guys out there. Trey Hendrickson, Cameron Jordan, Bradley Chubb, all three are edge rushers that could shake things up immediately. But as much as adding another edge sounds fun, the real need isn't on the edge. It's at corner. It's at linebacker. It's in the places where the Cowboys are getting exploited week after week. Tarek Woolen? That would be a dream. A tall, physical corner who could bring some much-needed length and athleticism to a secondary that's been getting cooked. But to get something, you've got to give something. And that's where the name Motzie Smith comes into play. Let's be honest here. The experiment may be over. He was inactive again against the Panthers, and that tells you everything you need to know. You don't draft a guy in the first round to have him sitting in street clothes halfway through the season. Whether it's coaching, scheme fit, or just misjudging the player's potential, something went wrong. And the smart move now? Package him in a deal. Use him as a sweetener to bring in someone who can help you win now, not later. Because make no mistake, this Cowboys team is in win-now mode whether they want to admit it or not. The window is open. You've got a quarterback playing the best ball of his career, weapons all over the offense when they're clicking, and a fan base that's starving for a deep playoff run. The last thing you can afford is to sit on your hands and hope things magically improve with the roster you've got. They won't. Not unless you make a move. But this also brings us back to the fan base and the narrative swirling around. Instead of focusing on how to fix the roster, we've got people pushing goofy trade ideas like moving on from George Pickens. Yes, that was actually floated out. And when challenged, some voices in the media tried to justify it as a team-building discussion. Are you serious? You don't start talking about trading your best young playmakers unless there's a legit reason. A contract impasse, locker room issues, a massive return being offered. None of that is happening. But some folks are more interested in stirring up hypothetical chaos than dealing with reality. It's like the fan base is addicted to outrage. Like they need something, anything, to be mad about. One week it's Jerry. The next it's the coaching staff. Then it's the quarterback. Then it's wild trade rumors with zero basis in fact. And the people leading those conversations? They're doing more harm than good. And let's talk about the coaches for a second, because they're not escaping this either. While everyone's been so quick to jump on Jerry, nobody seems to want to hold the staff accountable. But we need to. Because this offseason, the coaching staff had a huge say in putting this roster together. That's not speculation. That came straight from the team. So if some of these moves aren't panning out, the blame can't just go to the front office. The coaches have to wear that too. At some point, fans and media need to stop looking at Jerry Jones like he's still making every call like it's 1995. That's not the situation anymore. Sure, he has the final word on a lot of things, but this staff, especially guys like Dan Quinn and Mike McCarthy, they've had real control over who's here and who's not. So if the defense is struggling, if the linebacker depth is trash, if the secondary is a liability, maybe it's time to ask what kind of input the coaches gave in shaping this unit. And while we're on the topic, Jerry actually dropped a line that should have silenced all those crazy trade rumors about Pickens. He went out of his way to praise the kid, not just as a player, but as a teammate, as a locker room presence, as someone the coaches love having around. Now ask yourself, why would he do that if he was looking to move the guy? That's not how this works. You don't big up a player just to trade him 2 weeks later. That's not building leverage. That's just showing your hand. No, Jerry said what he said because Pickens is part of the plan. And barring something totally unexpected, he's not going anywhere. Before we roll on, subscribe to Cowboys Wire News, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Your support keeps the Dallas Cowboys updates coming. Tell us what you think in the comments. In what could be one of the most shocking moves of the season, rumors swirling for weeks have now become reality. Myles Garrett is reportedly on his way to Dallas. Sources close to the situation suggest that the Cleveland Browns have finalized a trade with the Cowboys, sending the star defensive end to Texas in a deal that has left both fans and analysts scrambling to process the news. While official statements are still pending, multiple insiders indicate that the Cowboys were eager to bolster their pass rush, and Garrett, known for his explosive plays and relentless pursuit of quarterbacks, fits the bill perfectly. The chatter in NFL circles has been relentless. For weeks, whispers hinted at Dallas being in the market for a game-changing defensive force, and Garrett's name never strayed far from speculation. The trade, according to sources, involves more than just players. It's believed draft picks are also part of the package, although the exact details remain under wraps. Fans on social media are already speculating how Garrett will mesh with Dallas's defensive scheme, and analysts are debating how his presence might shift the balance of power in the NFC East. Meanwhile, reactions from Cleveland have been mixed. While Garrett's dominance on the field is undeniable, some insiders suggest that the Browns are looking toward a rebuild or roster shakeup, seeing this as an opportunity to acquire future assets. The timing of the trade has caught many off guard, coming just as teams are solidifying their rosters for the upcoming season. Meanwhile, in Dallas, excitement is palpable. Garrett's ability to disrupt offenses could be exactly what the Cowboys need to break through in a division that has been historically competitive. Speculation now runs wild over how this acquisition will impact the Cowboys' offseason plans. Will Garrett be the missing piece that propels them deep into the playoffs? Or is this a high-risk gamble that might not pay off immediately? Regardless, the rumor mill is in overdrive, and one thing is clear. The arrival of Myles Garrett in Dallas, if confirmed, will dominate headlines and locker room conversations for weeks to come. Fans are advised to buckle up. This is shaping up to be one of the most talked about moves of the year. That's a wrap from Cowboys Wire News. For breaking Cowboys updates, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Tell us your take in the comments.